All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do with this image, guys, is we're gonna do a levels adjustment. Okay, we're gonna go adjust lighting and levels. And we've talked about levels before, so hopefully you know what this is gonna do already. But we're gonna darken up the blacks by sliding this across like this. And the other thing that we're gonna do, we'll just look down here again what this is doing. You can see, especially in this area down here, there's lots of grays and the blacks aren't really black. So I slide this over, okay? So it's, I guess, is really a personal, your opinion, what you think makes it look good. But the other thing that I want to do is look for, let's see if we can find an area here, and clean up some of the whites. Okay, as I slide this one across, there's a lot of little pixels that are not quite white that make up this white area in here. Here we go, and now we can see all these little dots and stuff, and it's not really a huge deal, but if we slide this across, we can clean those up, make our image look a little cleaner, okay? So this would be our first step here, I think, and again, we can see this so we're zoomed in a little bit better. And if we want to adjust our midpoint, we can do that. Okay, so when we're happy with that, we'll continue on with the rest of our project. You can do that after the fact too, so that's fine if you haven't done that yet. We're going to make a new layer. I'm going to put this underneath this one. I'm going to double check the mode is in RGB color. If you've got an image from like a website or somewhere else, you want to make sure, because it's a line art image, it's already just black and white. It may have been created in a grayscale mode or as an indexed color file, so we're going to convert it to RGB color if it's not already. And the whole idea here is that we're going to be coloring underneath the black lines. Instead of trying to stop right at the edges of the black line, and if we go over top of it, it's a bit of a problem, right? So the whole idea, we are going to take this top layer and change the mode to multiply. All right? So that's such a tiny little step, but make sure you've got this, because that's the whole kind of project kind of hinges on this idea, okay? So all of our colors now are going to be underneath, and now when we color, it's going to go underneath the black lines. So all of our black lines will stay on top, okay? And we could essentially just try to color this in however we want, okay? But I just wanted to use this project to go through a couple ideas here. Like we could go like this, and then make another layer over top and decide to, color this in with something else, whatever, right? This is pretty rough here, but okay. It looks pretty bad, right? Okay, let's back up here. Okay. What I want you to be able to do, at least in some places, let's use our magic wand here on this layer with our lines. Before that, let's do something. We're going to duplicate this layer. I'm just going to bring this down here. You can turn it off if you want, or you can lock it. You can leave it on and lock it. I just want kind of a backup copy in case I accidentally start painting on this layer. Okay? Then I can just turn it off and duplicate that again, and we're good to go. So we could even lock this layer so that we don't accidentally do that. And we're basically going to be coloring in all these other layers in between. All right, so I have to use this layer, though, to make my selection. And we're going to go under here, and we could fill this in. Maybe we could actually make them, whoa. The other thing with this, we don't want to use a really intense color, a bright color up here. We're going to be dodging and burning this later. Okay, so we want to choose like the mid value that we want this thing to be. Okay, so we're going to choose kind of like a not as bright as we want and not as dark and not as light as we want, we're going to add that stuff in. Okay? So let's say we do this. Okay? Now we notice that worked out pretty well. And then we can just take our brush and kind of tweak some of these areas out here, right? And let's see. All right. And the next thing we're going to be doing is adding some value to make it look more three-dimensional, okay? So to do that, we're going to use our dodge and burn tool over here. Okay. So the burn tool is going to make it darker. Let's check out our options here. The exposure is really light at like 20 or so. And this is set on midtones. That's fine. And we're going to make sure we've got a soft edged brush here. Okay. And we're going to figure out where our light source is coming from. And we want to make it consistent with that. If we look at this image, we can tell, we can look at his hands. The artist has already done all the work on that for us, right? We've already got all our shadows in place here. Okay. On the underside of his fingers here are darker, so the top's coming from, the light's coming from the top. And that seems pretty consistent with all these other shadows, right? The shadows are all on the bottom. So that's not a big deal. So let's start adding in our shadows here. And also, it's just curving away from us, right? So this is going to be darker over at the side here. So when we hit this with some shadows, it's going to start looking like it's receding away from us. Okay? And underneath here, maybe this little ring that pops up is casting a shadow underneath a little bit maybe here, all right? And let's get this, using the square brackets here to change my brush size quickly, right? To make it a little easier. And okay, let's try that for now. We're going to switch to our dodge tool. And we're going to add in some highlights in here. Okay. And this is kind of tricky if some people will kind of get it or not. If you had other art experience, drawing and stuff, I think this part will be easier for you to kind of picture where the highlights and shadows should be in order to kind of make it look three-dimensional. Okay. Also important is what the material is made of. Like this is supposed to be metallic, right? Like it's made of metal. It's Iron Man. So, you know, some places it's okay if you have some like really bright highlights or something like that where it's like really shiny. You can see they've even got like a little starburst of light here, right? Let's make this part bright around this. You could even almost bring it like to white almost, right? In some areas. I'm not going to do the whole thing here. So let's just do another little area. Let's do this in here. And we'll switch to our wand again and go back to our layer. And I just want to show you an idea here where we've got our selection, and I don't know what color this is supposed to be, like blue or something maybe. Let's do it like this. Okay. Let's add in this outside area here. Let's do all this area at once. Let's see if we can do that. Okay. And what I want to do is, I don't know if this is the best example, but I want to show you guys this. If we want to modify our selection, let's say we want it to jump out just a little bit. If it's not quite getting all the areas we want in there, okay, we're going to select, modify, expand our selection, even just by like 1 pixel, so that our edge we'll jump it a little bit bigger. Whoops, undo. There we go. Okay, so when we fill it in, it's gonna have less little spaces in between things. Let's see if we can find an area where that actually seems like it works better. So let's go up here and select this guy. Let's just fill him in like this for now. Kind of like this. See how we've got these little bits in here where it hasn't hit these little white areas? And if we want, sometimes it works better if we just, whoops, sorry, select, modify, expand our selection just by 1 pixel here so that our edge kind of jumps a bit when we fill it in. And then we've got less little extra pixels that didn't get kind of picked up by the color that we wanted. Okay, sometimes that works well, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on your image, okay? So the core ideas here are, we've got our ink layer on top. We're gonna change it to multiply, right? We change this from normal. Here's the difference, right? When this is on normal, we can't see all our colors underneath. When it's on multiply, all the colors underneath show through. It's like the white becomes transparent. And so we set that to multiply, and then I'm going to suggest we lock it off so we don't accidentally paint on top of it. And then we're going to be coloring underneath it. And when we're done, we should really end up with, after we've filled it in, used our dodged and burn tool over here. Okay, dodge and burn. Also, we could end up using this desaturate brush. So it's going to make it saturated or desaturated. So it's going to make it darker, right? If we go, let's click on this layer here. And just to show you, if we desaturate, it's going to make it towards gray. Okay, if I keep going, it's going to get really gray in this part. Okay, compared to using the burn tool, which will make it go towards black, make it the color darker. Okay. All right. So when we're done and we turn off all our lines, we really should have a kind of cool looking image even without the lines. And it should look like a fairly three-dimensional representation of whatever our image was here. Okay? So maybe real quick in here again, let's add some shadows on the bottom. Maybe in the center, any part that's curving, that's going away from us, we want it to be darker. Or any part that's like this part up here, I don't know if it's even should be blue, but that's okay. We'll make this part real dark up here, okay? And let's switch and make this lighter in the middle here. Okay, the other idea is that we want to put all our different areas on a different layer so that, well, let's do this little bit here. Okay, and here I'm going to do this. Expand it by a pixel, and let's pick a new layer. Let's just make it this color because it's here. Okay, so now if I want to dodge and burn this layer and only affect this light blue and not the dark blue, because it's on a different layer, I can really easily do that, right? And make this smaller, and we'll get like a real bright highlight, a couple spots across here maybe. Okay, and then we'll darken this bottom section, maybe the top a little bit as well. Okay, so we make it look like it pops out. Well, I don't like that last little bit. I almost feel like we could make that part brighter instead. So let's do that. Let's make this part even brighter. Put it there. Okay? Make sense? Make sense?